Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Dinolings Expansion Pack for the Doomlings base game. I'm going to be breaking down how it works, what's great about it, what's not so great about it, and my overall thoughts on the expansion pack. Let's talk about how this expansion pack works. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll need the base game before you're able to play with this expansion. That's enough to get you started. The Dinolings expansion is included in the Doomlings Expansion Box, and it comes crawling with all kinds of prehistoric cards. To start, let's break down the various cards included in this expansion pack. The Badlands Age card. Discard one card, shuffle the discard pile, and deal one card face down to each player. As well, return any remaining cards to the discard pile. The Impact Event Catastrophe card. Subtract one from your gene pool card. As well, discard one card from your hand for each dominant trait in your trait pile. World's End effect. Subtract one for each trait in your trait pile with a face value of 3 or more. The Carnosaur Jaw dominant trait card. To play, you must discard 2 red traits from your trait pile. This card is worth 9 points. The Serrated Teeth trait card. Add 1 point for each dominant trait in the discard pile. This card is worth -1 point. The Tiny Arms trait card. Add 1 point for each Dinoling card in the discard pile. This card is worth -1 point. The Bony Plates trait card. Draw 3 cards. You may discard Bony Plates to play one of these instead. Discard the rest. This card is worth 2 points. The Franz trait card. To play, you must discard 1 trait card from your trait pile. As well, add 2 to your gene pool card. This card is worth 0 points. The Thagomizer trait card. All players must discard 2 cards from their hand, including yourself. This card is worth 1 point. The Ceratopsian Horns trait card. This card is worth 4 points. The Pterosaur Wings trait card. You may play 1 effective list trait from the discard pile. This card is worth 1 point. The Terror Beak trait card. To play, you must discard 1 green trait from your hand or trait pile. This card is worth 3 points. The Elongated Neck trait card. Play an action from a card in your hand. This card is worth 1 point. The Cranial Crest trait card. Add 1 point for every 3 negative face value traits in the discard pile. This card is worth 1 point. The Dermal Armor trait card. You may discard 1 trait from your trait pile. This card is worth 2 points. The Pycnofibers trait card. Draw 1 card. If it is a dominant trait, discard it. If it is not, play it immediately. Ignore its action. This card is worth 1 point. The Egg Predation trait card. Steal 1 Dinoling card from an opponent's trait pile. This card is worth 1 point. The Proto Feathers trait card. Play 2 additional trait cards. Ignore their actions. This card is worth -2 points. The Talons trait card. This card is worth 2 points. Let's talk about what's great about this expansion pack. While most base game expansions can threaten to overcomplicate the gameplay, Dinolings keeps things light and fun. Not only is this expansion perfect for newcomers, but it provides some carnivorous fun for veteran players too. With its competitive yet straightforward gameplay, it's no wonder that Dinolings stands out from among the pack. Another thing that I love about this expansion is its emphasis on the discard pile. From the point-hungry Serrated Teeth card to the nifty Pterosaur Wings card, this collection of cards makes clever use of the discard pile in an admirably committed way. And lastly, what I love about this expansion are the Jurassic illustrations. Dinolings fully embraces the prehistoric cuteness of these little dinos, and the hilarious names that accompany them are a perfect match. With its combination of engaging gameplay and vibrant visuals, this expansion proves that you can have your dino and eat it too. Let's talk about what's not so great about this expansion pack. While I'm a huge fan of the expansion box itself, it would be nice if Dinolings could be purchased as its own expansion. As it is, the only way you get to play with Dinolings is by picking up the whole box set. That said, this is a minor critique that in no way impacts the gameplay experience. All in all, Dinolings is an exciting and adventurous expansion that begs to be added to your Doomlings collection. Its unique ability to entertain newbies and masters alike will make it a shoo-in for any game night, while its illustrated dinos will keep you smiling till the game's end. If you're questioning whether or not to excavate this prehistoric expansion, my advice would be to grab your tools. Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Mythlings expansion pack for the Doomlings base game. I'm going to be breaking down how it works, what's great about it, what's not so great about it, and my overall thoughts on the expansion pack. Let's talk about how this expansion pack works. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll need the base game before you're able to play with this expansion. That's enough to get you started. The Mythlings Mythlings Expansion is included in the Doomlings Expansion Box, and it comes jam-packed with some fantastical new cards. To start, let's break down the various cards included in this expansion pack. The Osmorian Winds Age card. After you stabilize, pass one card to your left at random. The Eyes Open from Behind the Stars Catastrophe card. Subtract one from your Gene Pool card. Discard one card from your hand. The player or players who discarded the lowest face value card must also discard one card from their trait pile. World's End effect. Discard your highest face value traits from your trait pile. The legendary Dominant trait card. Discard your hand and do not stabilize. This card is worth 8 points. The Righteous trait card. You may play this card from your hand at any time to stop an action that affects an opponent. This card is worth 1 point. The Diaphanous Wings trait card. This card is worth -1 point. The Icy trait card. This card is worth 3 points. The Mighty trait card. Discard a trait from an opponent's trait pile with a face value of 2 points. This card is worth 2 points. The Gelatinous trait card. You may play this card from your hand when an opponent steals from your hand or trait pile. This card is worth 2 points. The Ancient trait card. Choose a color and draw 10 cards. Keep one of the chosen color cards. Put the rest at the bottom of the deck. This card is worth 2 points. The Dragonheart trait card. Add 4 points if you have all 4 colors in your trait pile. This card is worth 1 point. The Fae trait card. You may play this card at any time. All players will add 1 number to their Gene Pool card. This card is worth 1 point. The Elven Ears trait card. Add 1 point for each Mythling card in all trait piles, including your own. This card is worth -1 point. The Orcish Tusks trait card. You may play this card from your hand when an opponent plays a Dominant trait card. This card is worth 2 points. The Zombified trait card. You may play this card into an opponent's trait pile when it is discarded from your hand. This card is worth -2 points. The Witchy trait card. You may play this card when it is discarded from your hand. Return this card to your hand when it is discarded from your trait pile. This card is worth 2 points. The Necromantic trait card. You may play this card from your hand when an opponent discards a trait card. Add that trait card to your hand. This card is worth 1 point. The Rainbow Horn trait card. You may play this card from your hand at any time if you have all 4 colors in your trait pile. This card is worth 2 points. The Ephegial trait card. You may play this card from your hand into an opponent's trait pile when they play an action card. This card is worth -3 points. The Destined trait card. This card is worth 4 points. Let's talk about what's great about this expansion pack. Striking the perfect balance between magic and mischief, Mythlings makes for a dazzling addition to the Doomlings world, thanks in large part to the amazing gameplay. Included in this expansion are a slew of new cards that add a heightened level of strategy to the experience. Cards like the Zombified card allow you to play it into an opponent's trait pile once discarded, while the Righteous card allows you to block an action that affects an opponent. It's cards like these and many others that make Mythlings a spellbinding experience. Another thing that I love about this expansion is how it complicates the gameplay just enough to make it a challenge for returning players, while also making it accessible to newcomers. Of all the expansions included in the box set, Mythlings arguably finds the perfect middle ground between veteran players and newbies to the series. It's for reasons like this and so much more that this expansion is bound to become a hit with Doomlings fans everywhere. Let's talk about what's not so great about this expansion pack. In complete honesty, I have nothing negative to say about Mythlings itself. This expansion was thoughtfully designed and lovingly crafted, and it fits perfectly into the Doomlings world. My only thought is that it would be nice to have the option to buy this expansion apart from the box set. That said, this is by no means a deal breaker and does not affect the expansion itself. All in all, Mythlings is a magical expansion that serves as a worthy addition to the Doomlings world. Its finely tuned gameplay style is a perfect fit for all players, while also serving up some serious competitive verve for the most volatile game nights. If you're questioning whether or not to embrace this adventure of mythic proportions, my advice would be to grab your sword and mount the dragon. Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Techlings expansion pack for the Doomlings base game. I'm going to be breaking down how it works, what's great about it, what's not so great about it, and my overall thoughts on the expansion pack. Let's talk about how this expansion pack works. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll need the base game before you're able to play with this expansion. That's enough to get you started. The Techlings expansion is included in the Doomlings expansion box, and it comes modded with some techie game mechanics. To start, let's break down the various cards included in this expansion pack. The Age of Metadata card. Play this Age card with your hand revealed. The Bioengineered Plague Catastrophe card. Each player chooses a color. The player on your left discards all cards of that color from their hand. World's End effect. Discard one random trait card from your highest color count from your trait pile. If 2 or more colors are tied, pick one color. The Ruggedized Dominant trait card. Attach this card to a trait card. That host trait cannot be removed from your trait pile. You may attach this card to a new host trait at the end of each turn. This card is worth 4 points. The GMO trait card. Attach this card to a trait card. Add 1 point for every trait card in your trait pile of the same color as the host trait. This card is worth -1 point. The gray hat trait card. Look at an opponent's hand. Steal 1 card and play it immediately. This card is worth -1 point. The binary trait card. Steal a trait card with a face value of 0 or 1 from an opponent's trait pile and play its action. This card is worth 0 points. The freakish eyes trait card. Draw 3 cards. All opponents also draw a card. This card is worth 2 points. The bone reinforcement trait card. Add this card to a trait card. The host trait cannot be swapped or stolen. This card is worth 1 point. The bionic arm trait card. Add 1 point for each Techling card in your trait pile, including this one. Add 2 points for each Techling card if a trait card is attached to this card. This card is worth -2 points. The Neuralink trait card. Take a peek at the next 2 age cards. This card is worth 2 points. The cybernetic trait card. Attach this card to a non-blue trait card. The host trait is now blue. This card is worth 1 point. The mecha trait card. Add this card to an effectless trait card. Add 1 point for each effectless trait card in your trait pile. This card is worth 0 points. The electromagnetic trait card. Attach this card to a trait card in any trait pile. If it has an action, play that action now. This card is worth 1 point. The subdermal plating trait card. You may play this card at any time. Attach this card to a trait card in any trait pile. The host trait cannot be discarded. This card is worth -1 point. The hypermyelination trait card. The value of this card is equal to the size of the highest gene pool card. The lionization trait card. Attach this card to a trait card in any trait pile. The host trait's effect is now inactive. This card is worth 1 point. The transgenic modification trait card. Attach this card to a non-green trait card. The host trait is now green. This card is worth 1 point. The nano trait card. Attach this card to a trait card in any trait pile. The value of this card is now equal to the face value of the host trait. Let's break down some specific rules for this particular expansion pack. When it comes to attachments, trait cards with the attach effect are played into your trait pile unless otherwise allowed. Each attachment card is marked with this gear symbol. These cards must be attached to a host trait even if they're played at random. If there are no suitable host traits, simply discard the attachment. Dominant traits cannot be host traits, and neither can trait cards with the attach effect. A host trait cannot have more than 1 attachment. Attachment cards cannot be individually swapped, stolen, or discarded. If the host trait is swapped or stolen, the attachment goes with the host trait. If the host trait is discarded or returned to your hand, discard the attachment. Individual attachment cards cannot be removed at random from your trait pile. If the host trait is at risk of being removed, set the attachment card aside and shuffle the rest of the cards. If the host trait is ultimately selected, follow the rules for swaps, steals, and discards. When applicable, attachment cards can count towards both your trait and color total. Let's talk about what's great about this expansion pack. Built around the concept of attaching powerful effect cards to host traits, Techlings puts a bold new spin on the Doomlings gameplay that you know and love. Cards like the Bone Reinforcement card allow you to attach it to a trait card to keep it from being swapped or stolen, while the Lionization card allows you to attach it to someone else's trait card, making it inactive. It goes without saying that Techlings boasts some of the most exciting and cutthroat cards in the whole series. Another thing that I love about this expansion pack are the wonderfully bizarre card illustrations. There's no question that the makers of Techlings had an absolute blast bringing a sci-fi spin to the Doomlings world, as is evident in these lovingly crafted cards. When it comes to combining techie thrills with vibrant artistry, Techlings proves that it's hardwired for success. Let's talk about what's not so great about this expansion pack. While Techlings is an all-around great time for veteran players, it might prove to be a bit of a challenge for newcomers to the series due to its complex gameplay. The expansion is accompanied by a nifty rules card, ensuring that no one gets too lost during the game. That said, this expansion pack might be better suited for players that are looking for that extra challenge. All in all, Techlings is a stellar addition to the Doomlings world that ratchets up the tension in some fun and surprising ways. The ability to attach supercharged effects to host traits is a fantastic addition to the game, while the sci-fi verve of the illustrations would make a T800 proud. In a game series teeming with some truly creative expansions, Techlings cements itself as a must-have for hardcore players. If you're questioning whether or not to modify your Doomlings game night with this steely expansion, my advice would be to embrace the tech. Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the multicolor expansion pack for the Doomlings base game. I'm going to be breaking down how it works, what's great about it, what's not so great about it, and my overall thoughts on the expansion pack. Let's talk about how this expansion pack works. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll need the base game before you're able to play with this expansion. That's enough to get you started. started. The multicolor expansion comes loaded with cards that can become multiple colors. To start, let's break down the various types of color cards included in this expansion pack. The Wild Dominant trait card. This card can be any color in the game and is worth 4 points. The Bloom trait card. This card can be either blue or green and is worth 1 point. The Free Will trait card. This card can be any color in the game at the end of the game and is worth 2 points. The Curiosity trait card. This card can be either red or blue and is worth 1 point. The Acrobatic trait card. This card can be either green or purple and is worth 2 points. The Bullheaded trait card. This card can be either green or red and is worth 1 point. The Mitosis trait card. This card can be either purple or blue and is worth 1 point. The Handwing trait card. This card can be either purple or red and is worth 1 point. Let's talk about what's great about this expansion pack. While most Doomlings expansions emphasize effects and abilities, Multicolor sets itself apart by focusing specifically on cards that act as multiple colors. Not only does this enhance the Doomlings gameplay in a huge way, but it also makes this expansion an easy add-on, regardless of what cards you're playing with. This alone makes Multicolor a must-have for Doomlings lovers. Another thing that I love about this expansion are the vibrant illustrations. And make no mistake, Multicolor more than lives up to its name. The variety of colorful cards included in this expansion more than stand out from the rest of the Doomlings pack, with the Wild Dominant trait card being particularly awesome. With plenty of style to spare, Multicolor gets points for being one of the coolest looking expansions in the Doomlings series. Let's talk about what's not so great about this expansion pack. While Multicolor is no doubt a stellar expansion, it comes with a surprisingly short stack of cards, less than half of any other Doomlings expansion. It is worth mentioning that you can collect other multicolor cards by picking up Overlush mystery packs, but when it comes to this expansion, you won't be breaking any double digits. All in all, Multicolor makes for a fun and vibrant addition to the Doomlings world. The concept of the expansion is easy enough to grasp, while at the same time transforming the gameplay of the base game in a huge way. If you're questioning whether or not to add this splash of color to your Doomlings collection, my advice would be to prepare the canvas. Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Meaning of Life expansion pack for the Doomlings base game. I'm going to be breaking down how it works, what's great about it, what's not so great about it, and my overall thoughts on the expansion pack. Let's talk about how this expansion pack works. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll need the base game before you're able to play with this expansion. That's enough to get you started. The Meaning of Life expansion adds a unique and exciting new spin to the Doomlings gameplay in that it gives you a hidden objective to complete for extra points by the end of the game. To start, follow the instructions to set up a game of Doomlings. Next, shuffle the Meaning of Life cards and deal 2 cards face down to each player. Each player must now secretly keep one of these cards, returning the second card to the box. You may look at your hand before deciding which Meaning of Life card to take. Pay close attention to the objectives listed on that card. Your goal now is to do everything you can to achieve one of those objectives by the end of the game to earn extra points. Let's talk about what's great about this expansion pack. Of all the expansions included in the upgrade box set, it goes without saying that Meaning of Life is the most unique. This is due in large part to how it adds a completely new segment to the Doomlings structure. By adding challenging yet rewarding objectives to the gameplay, this expansion ups the strategy in an exciting and natural way. Another thing that I love about this expansion is how many objective cards are included. With a total of 18 sign cards, Meaning of Life keeps these side quests fun and fresh, ensuring that you won't get bored with any objective. Let's talk about what's not so great about this expansion pack. While the concept of Meaning of Life is no doubt a winner, it just might be a little too much for the average player to tackle. The base game alone requires you to really pay attention to the table. With the addition of this expansion, you'll have to master the art of juggling multiple gameplay styles. That said, this expansion is perfect for the committed Doomlings player that's looking for that extra challenge. All in all, Meaning of Life is a smart and exciting addition to the Doomlings world. The addition of objectives to the gameplay adds a deeper layer of strategy that's sure to thrill diehard fans, while the chance to rack up even more points is sure to enthrall eager learners. If you're questioning whether or not to embark on this epic quest, my advice would be to grab your satchel. Hey guys, Denver James here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the massive Doomlings Expansion Upgrade Box. I'm going to give a brief breakdown of how each of these expansions work, what's great about them, what's not so great about them, and my overall thoughts on the collection. I'll also be releasing more in-depth videos of each of these expansions here in the near future. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know your way around the rules for the Doomlings base game. But just in case you don't, you should know that the object of the game is to score more points than anyone else at the table before the end of the world. You should also know that you'll you'll need the base game before you're able to play with any of these expansions. Let's take a look at each of these expansions and see how they work, starting with Dinolings. In case you couldn't tell by its title, Dinolings fully embraces all things prehistoric. This is made even more evident by the adorably deadly dinos that cover these cards. But that's not all that this expansion has up its scales. Dinolings revolves almost entirely around the discard pile. Cards like the Serrated Teeth card allow you to gain additional points for every dominant trait in the discard pile, while cards like the Pterosaur Wings card allow you to play effectless trait cards from the discard pile. This barely scratches the surface of how this expansion pack utilizes the discard pile. This expansion includes 15 trait cards, 1 dominant trait card, 1 age card, and 1 catastrophe card. It's also worth noting that Dinolings is the perfect expansion pack for beginners, as it adds a lot of fun to the gameplay without complicating things too much. While Dinolings was a straightforward prehistoric romp, Mythlings introduces us to a world of magic and mischief. And make no mistake, this fantasy-infused expansion is sure to make enemies out of your friends, while also incorporating new mechanics to the gameplay. Cards like the Zombified card allow you to play it into an opponent's trait pile once discarded, while the Righteous card allows you to block an action that affects an opponent. These are just a few of the cards that allow you to stir up some magical chaos with your frenemies at the table. This expansion includes 16 trait cards, 1 dominant trait card, 1 age card, and 1 catastrophe card. While Mythlings is an absolute blast, it also adds a bit of difficulty to the gameplay, making it a perfect challenge for returning players. An expansion pack built around the concept of attaching cards with special abilities to host traits, Techlings updates the gameplay in a bold new way. Cards like the Bone Reinforcement card allow you to attach it to a trait card to keep it from being swapped or stolen, while the Lionization card allows you to attach it to someone else's trait card, making it inactive. While these techie cards can be attached to dozens of trait cards, they cannot be attached to dominant trait cards. If a trait card is swapped or stolen and has a card attached to it, the attached card goes with it. This is also the case if the trait card is discarded or returned to your hand. A host trait cannot have more than 1 attachment. This expansion includes 15 trait cards, 1 dominant trait card, 1 age card, and 1 catastrophe card. While Techlings acts as a seamless addition to the Doomlings world, it also expands the gameplay in a huge new way, making it a thrill for die-hard fans. While other expansions place an emphasis on zany abilities and new gameplay mechanics, Multicolor introduces a lineup of trait cards that act as wilds in terms of color. For example, since the Bloom card is bordered with blue and green, it can simultaneously be either one of those colors, while the Handwing card, bordered with purple and red, can be either one of those colors. This expansion includes 1 quadricolor dominant trait card, 6 dual color trait cards, and 1 colorless trait card. It also comes with an icon guide for players that are colorblind. With a concept that's easy to grasp, Multicolor makes for a fun and effective addition to the Doomlings world. Of all 5 expansions included in this collection, the Meaning of Life is perhaps the most unique expansion in that it gives each player an objective to complete by the end of the game. For example, the Jellyfish card will give you 3 additional points at the end of the game if you have 3 to 5 blue traits in your trait pile, or 6 additional points if you have 6 or more. To play with this expansion, simply deal 2 sign cards to each player at the start of the game. Each player will then keep one of the 2 sign cards and place the other card back in the box. You're allowed to look at your sign card, but be sure to keep it secret from everyone else. This expansion includes a total of 18 sign cards. While acting as an exhilarating expansion to the Doomlings world, Meaning of Life also weaves perfectly into the fabric of the overall game. Let's talk about what's great about these expansions. Right off the bat, what I absolutely love about this collection of expansions is how each one is dedicated to a unique gameplay style and theme, while also ranging in difficulty. Each expansion sets out to usher in a new chapter of the Doomlings world, and it does so with flying colors. From the playful antics of Dinolings to the objective-based strategy of the Meaning of Life, this series of expansions is a must-have for any Doomlings lover. Another thing that I love about this collection is its careful attention to detail. Each expansion has specific markers in the top right corners of its cards, making it easy to separate the expansions at the end of a game. The exceptions are the Multicolor and Meaning of Life expansions, which have their own unique markers. As well, I think it's awesome that the Multicolor expansion comes with an icon guide for those that are colorblind. It's little touches like these that make these expansions stand out in an already fantastic game series. And lastly, what I love about these expansions are the illustrations and overall art design. The look and feel of these expansions meld perfectly with the Doomlings world, while also introducing us to some exciting new visuals. In a game with near limitless gameplay possibilities, Doomlings proves that it has the looks to match the smarts. Let's talk about what's not so great about these expansions. In complete honesty, there's hardly anything for me to pick at here. This is one of the best expansions that I've ever played with in any game, and that goes for all 5 of them. That said, if I had to really dig, I'd say that it'd be nice if the box were made of the same material as the base game, so as to last the long haul. As it is, the current box is a little thin. That said, something something like this might be better reserved for a collector's box, and again, I'm really reaching here. All in all, the Doomlings Expansion Pack box is a towering achievement in terms of fantastic gameplay and rewarding strategy. Its variety of expansions will ensure that players of all kinds will have a great time, and the vibrantly rendered illustrations will remind you of how beautiful the apocalypse can be. While the base game was already a stroke of genius, this collection of expansions sets the bar even higher. If you're questioning whether or not to embrace this catastrophic trip, my advice would be to prepare for the end. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Take care, and I'll see you around.